The best top expert tips and hacks to make your life better. Life hacks. Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and more. This is Mary Collins with Life Hacks Media, and I have the pleasure to have Eva Wisenbeck. How are you, Eva?
I'm very well, thank you, Mary. How are you?
I'm great. Working from online. Yay, yay. Joy, joy. Happy, happy. Thanks to the pandemic. So, and what we want to introduce everyone today with is that we're going to have our wellness and health, because Eva is our wellness and health guru. But concerning wellness and health, we have to also consider that our environment and our laws might play into our wellness and our health as well. So we have come up with a new program segment that will be on, every other week or at least once a month, called drum roll, blah, 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 blah. Eva, would you like to go ahead and tell everyone what it is?
Critical thinking versus conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory. Woohoo! So yes. So, we have all these people now that every time, the minute you say, well, this is happening or that's happening in the world, they're like, conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory. And then you feel like an idiot. And I say to people, well, no, that's called critical thinking because I've actually looked up the law or the scientific evidence or whatever. So before we freak people out and they think that this is going down the road of little green aliens, no, it's not. We're going to just talk about legislation dealing with food, health, safety. Life hacks. So how would we like to start off our first segment, Eva, with, is it a conspiracy theory or just critical thinking?
So here's one to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
Chickens with tumors from a virus in America, are they allowed to be sold as human food?
A virus? Like, what do you mean? Like tumors?
Yeah. So chickens, there's a particular avian disease that causes tumors in chicken. It's a retrovirus. And it causes, tumors. So one would maybe hear this and think this must be a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
It is not. It is not. So as of July this year, they have changed the current standards, and they are now allowed to just cut out the tumors, process the meat, and sell it for human food consumption.
Has anyone stopped to think for a second that if the animal has a tumor, there's a good chance that that tumor, cyst, whatever, and its disease might actually be in the rest of its body and therefore infect humans? I mean, isn't that how H1N1 and swine flu and avian flu and all these different things have passed on to humans?
And COVID.
Right, exactly. So how is this becoming legal? I mean, what?
Yeah, so this is where, for me, this whole thing we're doing, it's all about critical thinking. It's all about asking questions, get curious, and that it's not helpful. Everyone is sort of doing the whole conspiracy theory. All it does is create censorship and closes discussion. And we need to talk about these things.
Yes. And we need to actually look past certain social media platforms which are being censored, and we want to, what we need to start to ask is, who's doing the censoring to say this is not real or whatever? Who are they? Are they affiliated with a political party? Are they being bought by someone? What is the situation? We need to actually do the investigations ourselves, and you can go to PubMed for a lot of the scientific research that's published by doctors and scientists. It's supposed to be public information, right?
Most of this actually comes from the FDA website.
Boom. Right there. FDA website.
Yeah.
Look it up. And we'll, of course, put on lifehacks.com. That's with the K and X. We'll be putting up that legislation or that little link that says, look here, to find out that, yes, you can now have diseased chicken, duck. Why work harder when you can work smarter and live better? How is this affecting the UK? Because I know we were talking offline about this isn't just the US. That's because of the pandemic regulations now that are being changed to suit this pandemic, which, makes the conspiracy really quite thick about, well, why are we now not paying attention to the laws of what's really happening around us? What's happening in the UK?
Yeah, so in the UK, we have a huge one at the moment. For the UK, it's called the Agricultural Bill, and it covers everything from food standards to animal welfare standards. And the government, springtime, put through an amendment. So they were saying we will not safeguard our current standards in any future trade negotiations. So basically saying we might take a step back. We might revoke some of the current standards.
Just to do a deal.
Just to do a deal. Yeah.
So
it's money.
Right. And so what does that mean? Explain to people what that means if they are revoking current trade standards. Give us some examples.
Yeah, so for me, it's huge. So actually, I will talk about the farmers first, because I think where we produce food is really important. So for the UK farmers, so this is ping-ponging now. So it's gone to the House of Lords. They said, no, you can't do it. Went back to the government beginning October, and they said, no, we are doing it. They voted it through again with a majority. So it'll still go a little bit. But yeah, so for the farmers, if we all of a sudden start importing cheaper foods produced to a lower standard, more additives, more pesticides, inhumane rearing, all of these things, the British farmers can't compete. And if we lower our standards, we cannot export to the rest of the EU once we come out at the end of the year. So the British farming industry has nothing.
Will be broken. We'll not only make people in our community poorer, but we'll possibly be opening the doors to more disease and really, really bad.
Undoubtedly. I think for me, the two big ones in this, sorry, I'm just so passionate about it, because it is, we might not notice the first year, but after a few years, it will have an incredible impact on our society. And I just want to say that even if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you've seen all the headlines saying chlorinated chicken, you think I'm fine. No, because it's the pesticides, it's the additives, it's the GMO crops, it's the monocropping, which is destroying soil. There's so many other things in this whole, agricultural bill.
Exactly, especially like
questions.
Yeah, I mean, and like you mentioned, even if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, guess what? The more of these crops that you have that are like soya, there's no bees. Bees don't pollinate these things. So if you have thousands of acres of this kinds of crops, where are the bees going to get what are they going to pollinate? How are they going to survive? And if they can't survive, guess what? Neither is your avocado or well, that comes from a foreign country, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Apples, oranges, all of our food that gives us vitamin C, vitamin D, and all these things that help us fight viruses and infections. We'll have less of them. So you have to consider that, or we'll have to get them from another country and they could be genetically modified. So, this affects everyone.
Yeah, it does. And I think the reason we wanted to do this, Mary, you and me, was to just, that with the headlines today, so focused, a lot of these things are just happening.
They're sneaking in.
We don't know about them. And people need to get curious. People need to get engaged in whatever way they feel comfortable, because this is our future. So in America, and I'm going to read this so I get it right. So the bill is called the Defense Production Act. So it covers a lot of things, but food is also covered in there. And as you say, it's done so much under it's a pandemic. We need to ensure that we can provide food banner. But again, you can be okay with that. But how long is that going to go on for? And will things that be, if things are put into place now, like the chickens, is that just going to carry on forever? So we just have to critical thinking, ask questions. So the rollbacks they've done in the States, again, this springtime, fewer plant inspections for like meat processing plants.
Oh, wow.
Farm pollution is another one. So they're not too, so they're just relaxing.
Yeah. So when you say like the meat plant inspections, people need to think about that. Do you know what that means? That means that like animal conditions for animals, processing could be done unhygienically, even more unhygienically if it's not done very well in the first place. It means animals can be, I think you told me they can be processed quicker. They can be, like
so they can put
mass
through more
slaughtering.
animals, which means that the inspectors they have no chance of catching E. coli, salmonella, all of these, and we know we have outbreaks, and they're just going to become more and more common.
And what you were saying was the other one?
Yeah, so we've got the plant inspection, the farm pollution, which is also very concerning. So basically, we're looking mainly at America and like the mass productions where they have like the cesspits.
Well, and we know that can poison the water. There was a whole thing about that.
Absolutely. So they've rolled back the standards of that, and then they've also rolled back the standards of some labeling, meat labeling, and they're also allowing currently like swapsies. So if you have a product and you can't get hold of some of the ingredients, you don't have to correct it on the label.
Wow.
If it's like just food, yeah. Which is kind of like, it might be okay for a short time, but my worry is that if it's put in place now, for how long?
Forever. Yeah, it's just like the whole 9/11 thing. Forever. All these rules that these temporary organizations that sprung up are now in place, for the foreseeable future. So, I mean, what do you mean swapsies with the labels? And what do you mean by like meat, like not being labeled correctly?
Yeah, so the meat labeling one isn't interesting because I can't give you too much detail on that. I wish I could. It's ever so hard to find information. Most of this actually comes from the FDA official website, but they're not giving you too much. Yeah. But the swapsies is sort of, they're talking about if you got like a vending machine or if it's an ultra processed food, which we've talked about in previous episodes around, just lots of ingredients packed into a ready meal, for example. They're sort of saying, the lovely example they give is if you can't get hold of peppers, but you use another vegetable, you don't have to tell anyone.
Oh, lovely. So what you think you're eating is chicken, but what you're really eating is someone's dog. Lovely.
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. But it's just another one where wouldn't it be great if we could ask questions?
Right.
So actually, critical thinking, so the crux of this, active learning, I love this definition. Critical thinking is active learning rather than passive information.
Exactly.
Yeah, so don't just read the headline and take it in. As you say, ask questions. Who's behind it? Is there an agenda? What's the money trail?
What's the motive?
What's the political, there's just ask questions.
Yeah, people, you don't have to be Poirot to figure this out, right? It's just common sense. Like, okay, well, who's going to make the most money out of this? Do I really want to believe the headlines? Or do I want to actually just look up the journal, look up FDA, look up PubMed, and in the UK, you're saying, besides the fact that it's going to affect the farmers, it's going to also affect pollution and everything else, isn't it?
Hugely, and our bodies, because all of a sudden a lot more chemicals are potentially in the product and how they're produced, and it's a massive one. Yeah.
Okay, so now's the time. If you really want something to protest, you want to be angry about something, you're worried about global warming, hey, you have to be alive to protest global warming. Your children and grandchildren have to actually survive. Global warming is going to take a bit more time than poisoning our bodies and our minds with incorrect information and actual chemicals and inhumane treatment of animals. Okay. And the possible destruction of insect population because of these kinds of legislations. Get out there, write your letters, send them registered. Make sure someone has to sign for your protests, for the letters that you put together to protest this. And if something is, you want to put something on social media and they try to take it down, don't just share, copy, paste, change the words, make sure it gets heard. So thank you so much, Eva. And I can't wait for our next, is it critical thinking or is it conspiracy segment? And anyone who wants more information, you can go on to lifehacks.com. That's with the K and an X. Do you want to finish up this segment with anything, Eva?
Actually, yes, I have a quote from a American doctor called Mark Hyman. And he has actually just written a book about, future food supplies, really. So I'll do a link to that too. But I love this. This is all about asking the question why. And he says, I always ask why. Why are we sick? It's the food. Why do we have this food? It's our food system. Why do we have this food system? It's our food policies. Why do we have these food policies? Because we have a $15 trillion food and agriculture industry. And it's an industry. They are there to make money.
Right.
We can't forget that.
And we have to really do something about it now. No more arguing, just fact checking and moving forward. Thank you so much, Eva. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mary.
Best top expert tips and hacks to make your life better. Life hacks. Technology, business, multimedia, wellness and health, events, reviews, and more. Life hacks.